Hello, social media friends. I'm Viridiana Marquez with DRB Media Communications Digital News, and Danny Barrera has the story.
The Republican National Hispanic Assembly held a special farewell luncheon at the Bush Convention Center for U.S. Congressman Mike Conway, 11th District. Speakers at the luncheon included City of Midland Mayor Patrick PAYTON. The RNHA Midland chapter celebrated Congressman Conaway's contribution to the constituents of the 11th District.
This is important to remind Americans in general to go out and vote, but more importantly for conservatives to remember that this is an election about our way of life. So when you listen to the debate and the transition away from oil, that really does affect our economy here in the Permian Basin, particularly West Texas. And so this is to get people together to remind them what Congressman Conway has fought for all those years that he's been there. And then the incoming member, which we are hopeful, Colonel Pfluger, who's running for District 11, will get elected, and to keep Texas red.
It is believed by Republicans if Joe Biden is elected, the U.S. oil and gas industry would disappear and the West Texas economy would collapse.
And certainly the existential threat to West Texas couldn't be clearer. They're going to try to do away with fracking. I think they would do away with fracking on federal property right off the bat. Now, we don't have a lot of federal property in West Texas, but they will then start the effort of trying to ban fracking on private lands as well. And that right now, that's the heart of the shale play, is being able to frack these long laterals. So it is an existential threat. His plan for energy is an existential threat to West Texas.
Maintaining the way of life in West Texas is important to those that work in the industry, but also to those businesses that depend on the oil and gas industry here in the basin.
Of all the businesses that support fossil fuels, right? I have a law firm. My wife has a dry cleaners, Pristine Organic Cleaners. And without the oil economy here, it would be extremely difficult to make a living because we don't have that diversity yet. I think we should work towards that because, as Congressman Conway says, maybe in 100 years we may run out of fossil fuels, but not right now.
As positive cases and hospitalizations for COVID-19 is on the rise across the U.S., a COVID-19 vaccine may be available by the end of 2020.
I think historians, when they look back and see just what we've done, what we've been able to accomplish with Operation Warp Speed, it's going to be pretty amazing, pretty dramatic. They've truncated the time it normally takes to get a vaccine done by peeling out the time frames that are lost as a result of the for-profit model having to take a cautious approach to development of vaccine. That risk is now all on the taxpayers. So he shrunk the amount of time that to get a vaccine approved. I think they'll have one done. If you listen to the President and Secretary Azar, there's a good chance we'll have one by the end of the year. In anticipation of having that vaccine available, we've already started the distribution plans. Each state's already had to put in its plan as to how, once it gets a share of the vaccine, how that would be distributed, to whom it will be distributed, taking the guesswork out of that. The Department of Defense has been the backbone of this issue. They're gathering up needles and syringes and other products that are necessary to deliver the vaccine once those are done. So they're anticipating that. And they've also worked with the manufacturers to make sure they've had all the equipment they need to begin the manufacturing process of these vaccines, so that in addition to the 100 million that will be available when the vaccine is approved for immediate distribution, the ramp up will continue to get that vaccine even more doses available for the country.
The Midland Republican National Hispanic Assembly embraces conservative values and want to encourage those Mexican Americans who are uncertain to which political party to subscribe to, contact the RNHA chapter of Midland.
We need to be able to have them registered. I think we're behind on the registration for Latinos and Hispanics, and I think also the opportunity for them to get to know the issues, let them know not to be scared to vote. It is their voice, and I think as a majority here now in Midland, we need to be able to educate and tell them about the oil and gas and how important that is for the Permian and how important that is for Midland.
The most important thing is, the values that the Republican Party stands for, which we know that is free religion, pro-life, pro-Second Amendment, and all those values are traditional values from the Conservative Party, which is identify us as a Hispanic. So it's very important. Sometimes Hispanic doesn't realize that the values that they stand for are the same values that the Republican Party stand for.
For DRB Media Communications Digital News, Danny Barrera.
Thank you for following us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, also at DannyVisionEntertainment.com. For DRB Media Communications Digital News, Viridiana Marquez.